Tell him it's a personal favor to me. So I want to write that up as like a little note to give to Tezebal to take to the governor, because I don't need to be told.
All right. So you write up a little note with the intention of giving it to Tezebal after the meeting.
Sealed note and everything, you know.
Right. So Delta's put forth his presentation on the ship. Kruger has smoked some low sticks. We've got Viorlas in
McBooth would
there
have periodically
asking
been
questions.
offering him more glow sticks and lighting them for him.
McBoof now lights low.
And constantly hounding people as to whether they wanted McBooth to pass them butter. Even though there was no food in the hall at all.
I think McBoof actually has a little compartment that holds butter in it, and he can pull it
Yeah.
out. And
Would you like butter?
He just offers butter to people.
it's actually inside his left eye socket.
Butter.
Can
Butter
I please
eye.
write that down as a subsystem?
Yes, butter storage
dispensary.
compartment, left eye socket.
He's going to use that in combat one of these times by squirting butter out on the floor and somebody slipping on it with a bad agility roll.
Yeah, man. That's
best.
exactly why I'm recording it.
You can take anything and use it as a weapon nowadays.
This is true.
So I think we're gonna. It's gonna be a. I want to send this letter back to the governor and send Tezebal back, and we'll spend time in orbit, kind of figuring out what we're going to be doing.
Alrighty. So I'm assuming you then exit the war room.
Unless anybody else has anything else to say.
Nope.
Vola, do you want to talk about anything? It's a good time to do it. It's a meeting between the crew, except for Rakad, which doesn't count.
I'm still mainly curious as to why we're even doing this.
What do you mean? Why you're even? Oh, your character doesn't really know anything, does he?
No.
Well, I didn't explain anything. I just came in and started talking about my plans.
Well,
Worst
I mean, to
captain
be fair,
ever.
yeah, that's true. You did do that. Also, to be fair, people in the Imperium generally understand that you want more money because money buys things. You would, I suppose, assume that every other culture probably does the same thing.
Yeah. That's yeah.
So so he's having an issue from a Tao's perspective, right? I suppose.
Right, yeah. The Tau don't necessarily buy things from each other.
Well,
at least, I mean, not in his
so
position.
I want to explain it to him. Me wanting this planet is not for the money, although the money will be a side effect. It's about power. It's about reach. The Tau understand that very well, or they wouldn't attack other planets and take them. So, in a way, it's for the greater good.
Yes.
we're looking for a better future for this planet, other than just people working their fingers to the bone in pits, and the nobles being rich fatties sitting on their nicely adorned thrones, eating their boiled goose. Cue music.
Delta interrupts and says that it's for the greater good if we own the holdings as a conglomerate, make a larger alliance.
Notably, when he says the words greater good, he says them in Tau speech.
Smart freaking butter passer.
How do you know about the greater good?
Oh, this should be good. How
I
does he
told
know?
you, I've been repairing your technology.
That's genius. Oh my God, yes. Out of character here. He got knowledge Tau, didn't he, from doing this?
Yeah.
Yep.
How much knowledge?
Yeah, but you don't know this. You just know that he knows about the greater good.
The thing about him getting knowledge is that he's a super genius, which means that if he gets the beginning of some knowledge, it expands quickly. However, you'll have to ask him.
That's what I'm doing. How do you know about the greater good? Simply repairing our weapons and looking at our equipment shouldn't have taught you our teachings.
I stated it. It was in your technology. It was plastered everywhere within the circuitry of it.
So, Viorlas, you haven't really looked inside the circuitry of your weapons or anything like that. I guess he could be right, but you've seen Earthcast people mess with the weapons and try to fix them. Um,
That is the problem with your character right this second, Vola. You're a good character in a chaotic question mark period. And
but okay, so you know that as far as you've seen with the Earthcast as they work on your weapons, there's no wording per se. There's circuitry, there's machining, there's technology, but there's like the words for the greater good aren't in your pulse rifles. That doesn't make any sense.
While they're doing that, is Vola's character visibly perturbed by this?
I would say so. Yes. I don't know. Viorlas,
I
are you
wouldn't
visibly
say
perturbed?
he's perturbed. More like curious. Very curious.
I don't think it would be bad for you just to tell him how you know all these things.
Remember, Tau want everyone to know about the greater good. Tau want them to integrate with it. It's not like a secret per se. It's just a teaching that the Tau teach when they start to integrate with another society.
Yes.
Well, I can split exacts at you, but you might need to understand like tech speech for it.
Loud
I can
binary
get-
screeching begins.
I can try to get McBooth to translate what it would be.
Well, I have pretty high tech use, so let's see if I can do it first that way.
Okay, so I'm gonna have you make a tech use check, Viorlas.
So then just do. I have to be 45, right? Do I get a modifier or anything?
Just click on the button next to tech
Um,
use.
Well, hang on. So yeah, can you just roll me a D100? Is that all right? Just slash R. There you go. Oh God.
Can I roll secret tongue tech to make it as difficult to understand as possible?
Well, you're trying to make it more difficult to understand.
Yeah, he'll get bonuses because I'm translating it into a language that can be
He
understood.
rolled an 86. If you're trying in any way, shape, or form to make it harder to understand, he does not.
I
get
don't-
it.
I don't know if it helps any, but I'm trained in tech use at least.
Yeah, that's what makes it a 45 instead of a 22.
Hmm.
Okay, so he starts spouting off a bunch of tech information. Although, roll me one more tech use. Viorlas.
Still going to be
There we
fine.
go.
Yeah, but
Okay.
he's going to roll now.
So you don't know what he's exactly saying. You don't get all the intricate details of it, but you do know that he's talking about the coding inside of some form of logic engine or computing engine, which is odd because none of your weapons really have that per se. But that's really all. You don't know what he's talking about per se. You don't understand what the code is or what the programming is. But again, your weapons don't have that, and he's talking about programming itself. So there you are.
Okay.
Might I make another offer to Shazwi Violas?
Ooh, full name.
And the offer is.
How about you forestall thoughts about human civilization for now, and I assign McBooth to you as a companion to answer your questions about Imperial society, so that you can get more knowledge on the subject before passing any thoughts on how we as a species operate.
And what about knowledge of that thing that we just came from? The warp.
Do you mean oh?
Oh, I mean,
So
it's common knowledge about the warp, isn't it?
He describes the warp as this thing he doesn't really know. I mean, you would know what it's called, yeah.
Yeah,
You
the
just
Would
Warp, the
I?
Empyrean.
'Cause Tau don't go through the warp. Would they
Right,
call
but
it
they
the
know.
warp?
No, they would not
Well,
call it the warp. You would probably have a Tau word for it.
Oh, but he has Tau knowledge, so that works still. Never mind. All right.
Yeah, so I can know the difference between Imperial engines and Tau engines.
Mhm.
Well, let's make a knowledge xenotech roll on that
Yep.
just to make sure.
I can
We're
just
gonna
roll a
give it a
D100 if you want.
yeah. Please just do that.
59, so that succeeds by 1.1 degree of success. With
Okay,
any
so
modifiers.
you're normally at a 70.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't actually quite get the idea of Tau warp drive technology.
Okay.
Mostly because what you studied really has nothing at all to do with it. There's no way you would
Yeah.
get that knowledge.
But does this trade seem fair? Imperial information and information on the warp from McBoof. Fucking that name.
Are you asking Delta if that
Yep.
trade is?
Yes, that would be my offer. As to whether it is fair or not, that's for you to judge.
So the point of note here is that Viorlis has added in knowledge of the warp as another thing to teach. There's really no
Yes.
reason for Delta to have assigned that a different like a value
Exactly.
of difficulty.
That's part of what I was intending to, and whatever I don't know, I'm intending to research soon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think this is a good little like difference in cultures here, where Viorlis is like, oh man, I could even learn more about the warp, whereas Delta's like, what? Yeah, what? Why would you even? Why is that even a
That
question? Of course you
I
do.
was meaning that anyway.
Perfect. Okay, so the deal has been made. McBoof will stick around with Viorlas with the intention of answering any questions he has about the Imperium and the warp and other things that he cares to answer.
Yep.
So, anything else in the war room, or do you head out to find Tezeval?
I think that's it. So I walk out. I hand him the letter to send to the governor, and tell him to take it to him.
Tezeval, your reaction?
Vola,
Hmm.
just briefly, are you holding the jetpack you acquired the other day, or have you left that somewhere?
Was I training with it?
Oh yeah, so Remo, the question that he was supposed to ask you, and I didn't really get a good answer on whether or not you guys talked about this, was that you will have to give up one of your cargo bays of any sort for the time it takes him to train with this jetpack. Is that acceptable?
An entire cargo bay. You know how big those things are? You mean like one corner of the cargo bay?
What my suggestion is when we're not using it, like when we're en route just from a trade deal, for example, we can temporarily repurpose it. Get some
Yes,
It
padding.
doesn't even need to be a cargo
Um,
bay. It could just be the
and-
section where his shuttle's at.
exactly.
And
Big
if
shuttle.
he wants to train with it properly when we can't set that up because our cargo bays are full, he can do it and nearly die in a hangar. That sounds fair.
I think the hangar is perfectly acceptable.
But for the first few times training with it, it won't really require too many actual pilot tests. It's more just taking the tiniest little bits of jumps and things like that, and just seeing if you can get off the ground like even a centimeter, and just going
True.
through the controls and things like that. And theory of aerodynamics. I'm gonna be running that past because science, bitches.
as long as the cargo bay is empty, yes, he can use the cargo bay.
Perfect. Okay. So when you guys are actually in the middle of a trade deal, dealing with all of your cargo bays, he won't be able to train at that time. But other than that, you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
Vola, do you currently have that, like on your character?
So just for certain, I was training or I wasn't.
So yes, it was agreed that you are allowed to. The cargo has not actually been transferred to the ship yet. That was something you guys were going to do before you left the system here. So yeah, you could have been training just fine.
All right, then